I'm hot for it from the paper. Breaking news, really. One place to start, I think.
Yeah, it's just literally breaking right now that Manchester United have agreed a £60 million fee for Mason Mount. So 55 million up front and then 5 million in add-ons. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of the big transfer stories of the summer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're a Chelsea, you cover Chelsea. It's your beat was with goal.com, now the Standard. This is the one that probably most Chelsea fans didn't really want to happen, isn't it? We know they've got to offload players, but I think Mason Mount was really popular, wasn't he?
I think he was a popular character, homegrown. He's like sort of almost took on the mantle a bit of with Reece James, as sort of a Mr. Chelsea type figure that Lampard and sort of John Terry had back in the day. And you thought maybe these two academy boys would be at Chelsea forever. I certainly did actually for a long time think that they were just going to be around it all and build a new culture. So for Mount to go out, I think that's the hard part, is that you can't really picture him in another team's shirt, really. I've been watching him play for Chelsea since he was about 16 years old when I first was aware of him, but he's been at the club since he was 8. So it is quite shocking to see him go away, but Chelsea just couldn't agree terms with him. The contract negotiations didn't go very well. So with 1 year left, it's pretty sensible actually to accept £60 million for a player. It's actually quite a good fee for a player with just 1 year left in his contract. No matter sort of the emotional side of it, it's good business in a way, right?
Yeah, and as well, they've gone almost bang in the middle because there was complications, wasn't there, with the price, especially a player like Mount. You want to get it right. 65 million, I believe Chelsea wanted. Manchester United was so set on that 55 million, so it looks like they've gone bang in the middle.
I know, and Manchester United was sort of really set. They said we wouldn't go over 55 million, and now they're sort of paying 60 million, but I guess they could argue it's only 55 million up front, so maybe in a way, and maybe the add-ons are quite hard. We don't know what the add-ons specifically are yet, like how they would sort of be payable. Sometimes it's like if they win the league, if they win the Champions League, if Mount wins the Ballon d'Or, that kind of thing does come into play with add-ons. So it'll be interesting to see maybe if those details ever come out. But certainly I think both clubs can be relatively happy. That's why sort of these deals happen. It's because all parties are happy. And also let's not forget Mount in this, because he did want to leave, and that's the unfortunate part, is that he was ready to leave. He wasn't renewing his contract, and he was going to go somewhere. He was going to go to a big club, and it ends up being Manchester United, and that's a good move for him. And I think he'll be happy with that.
And from their point of view, for United, I mean, he's a great player. He's an England international, Chelsea's Player of the Year for 2 years running. But there are fans, and you're from Manchester. You'll probably know some of them. There are fans who are saying, is he the player we need? I mean, what's he going to give United?
I think we see it with England and Chelsea fans that sometimes they're a bit scathing of Mount. He doesn't do enough in some people's eyes. He's maybe not exciting enough. I remember when I was covering England during the last World Cup, and Declan Rice was asked about Mount again. Why do people not like him?
That's a
and
proper bromance.
They're best friends,
proper
right?
bromance.
But I think he put it really well. And this is a guy who knows football and considers it really carefully. He said he's not really the example of what people expect from an attacking midfielder, in that he's very tactically aware, very technically good, but he doesn't do that Jack Grealish sort of dribbling. He doesn't quite have the spectacular balls of Bruno Fernandes or James Maddison, so he's kind of more of a conservative player, but he's really physically impressive, never gets injured, 7 out of 10 every week, really tactically good. I remember the Champions League semi-final when Chelsea went on to win the competition. Mount was exceptional against Real Madrid in the semis, and he was very tactically aware where he could join attacks and when he had to drop in midfield, and he sort of smelled the danger in the game really well and was really influential against one of the best midfielders in the world. So I've seen Mount have unbelievable games. I think he's going to be a great player for Manchester United, and I think that they need a player, because watching them last season, Eriksen sometimes tired a bit. He got injured for that spell as well, and they were a bit lacking in midfield. And we know Man United's midfield has been a problem for a while. So with Casemiro as a really solid holder, I think they can afford a Mount, a really good number 8 to shuttle in up and down alongside him with sort of what Bruno does and what Eriksen does.
And as well, you mentioned his strengths, but he's also a player that can add you goals and assists.
Yeah.
I mean, not last season, but the season before, over 10 goals, 10 assists, I believe. And again, a player of his quality and an English quality as well, which English clubs love, having a top quality English player. Yeah,
no, and especially Manchester United. That's what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do, didn't he? He always signed the best from Britain, so Wales, Scotland, England and Ireland. So, it's great that we have, Mason Mount just at this sort of level. I think it's good for him to move on in his career if he wanted to move. it would have been horrible for all parties, I think, to see him just sat around at Chelsea. His contract's expiring, not playing his best. I mean, I think, to be honest, last season the contract situation was part of what made him play not as well as those seasons before that you mentioned. So yeah, when he's at his best, he provides goals and assists, and yeah, he's a good player, really good technician.
And touching on some more outgoings, one that is 100% confirmed as of yesterday, which is Kai Havertz. Yeah. I want to get your opinion on this, because I know there was a lot of people in world football that was very shocked to see Kai Havertz go to Arsenal. Was you one of them people to see that happen? Was it quite shocking for you as well?
Well, I remember when I was sort of looking at the transfer window after the season had ended, and it did feel like Havertz was going to leave, to be honest. He did have 2 years left on his deal rather than one like Mount, so maybe Chelsea could have dug their heels in, maybe tried to ride it out, convince him of the project. But similar to Mount, he did want to leave. So again, you cash in, you've got a big bid, 65 million or 67 million maybe it was in the end. So yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, let him go. But then to go to a rival, it's quite hard. But the other thing about sort of Mount and Kovacic and Havertz going to rivals is that the Premier League is the strongest league in the world now, and I mean financially is the important aspect. So Chelsea had a bid on the table from Real Madrid that was much lower, but they go and accept much more money from Arsenal, and that's what Chelsea wanted to do. So if you want to sell abroad, you can get less money and maybe send them there, but actually it's a lot easier to sell in to your rivals. So maybe sometimes you have to consider it, especially if the player wants to leave. So they kind of have ended up doing that with Havertz and with Mount.
And going back to, we mentioned Moises Caicedo, which arguably is... Well, he's up there with one of the biggest deals, I think, of the summer transfer window, potentially, maybe behind Rice, because Casado's been linked with a lot of big clubs, hasn't he? Not just in this window, in January as well. Of course, January, that saga with Arsenal, everybody knows about him pleading almost to say to Brighton, can I leave to go to Arsenal? But this window's a little bit different. Now Arsenal have nearly got Rice, not 100% confirmed yet. Manchester United and Chelsea are in the run for it. The fact that Mount... as the deal has been agreed for him to go to Manchester United, do you feel like this has opened the door even bigger now for Chelsea to secure his signature?
Yeah, I do. I think they need to get that midfielder in. Just need the numbers for one, and then I think that financially they're going to be very strong. I mean, there was this sort of talk of a soft deadline for Chelsea, so it's like 30th of June, which is the end of the accounting year. Chelsea just spent 600 million across the last two transfer windows, a world record. So now they've brought in about 200 million, which helps balance the books. So I think they feel a bit more confident going into the market for who will be their most expensive outlay in the market. And I think that we'll start to see Chelsea being aggressive probably from next week. And coincidentally, Pochettino will be in the building, which will be very exciting.
And how much do you see that transfer being? Because, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Caicedo was around 75 million Arsenal were willing to give up, and that was in January. So is that going to be around about that figure or even more?
Yeah, I think maybe slightly more than that figure, but I don't think much more. Has been talk of 100 million. I don't think it'll be 100 million, but they will try and benchmark against Rice's fee, so you always look at who else has moved in the market.